What is up, guys? Welcome to my channel. This is my very first video. I can't believe it. I've been telling myself for years that I was going to start a YouTube channel. So here we are. I know a lot of you guys are from my TikTok channel. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and subscribing to my channel before I even have content. That's amazing. I'm kind of nervous. Bear with me, guys. The lighting might be a little weird. The mic might be a little weird. This is my first video, so we'll figure it out. Let's go ahead and get right into this video. Today, we're going to talk about the case of Susan and Jeffrey Wright, also known as the Blue-Eyed Butcher. This is one of the very first cases that got me into liking true crime. This case has stuck with me forever. Honestly, I haven't seen a single person cover this case, so let's go ahead and get right into this case. Susan Lucille Wright was born on April 24th, 1976. She lived in Houston, Texas with her mother and father, Sue and Lawrence Weish. I think that's how you say it. Susan was always known as someone who was a very sweet girl. She was always really nice and everyone really liked her. After graduating high school, Susan worked as a topless dancer at Gold Cup Strip Club for about 2 months. All of the money she earned while working as a topless dancer, she put towards a community college fund because she wanted to enroll into a nursing program. Unfortunately, Susan thought school was too time-consuming and she quit. After quitting school, she started waitressing at a restaurant in Galveston, Texas. This is where she met Jeffrey Wright, which is her soon-to-be husband. There wasn't a ton of information on Jeffrey, but many people claim that Jeffrey was a really charming guy, that he really had no trouble at all getting to know and meeting women. He was described as someone who was the life of the party and really loved to have fun. He was kind of a party animal. Right before he met Susan, his 30th birthday was coming up, so he really knew that he wanted to kind of slow down and start to settle down with a woman, and then that's when he met Susan, and he knew as soon as he met her that she was the one. Not even a year later, they were married in a small ceremony right outside of Houston, Texas, and Susan was about 8.5 months pregnant at the time. The couple then bought their first home, and everything kind of seemed to be falling into place for them. People would describe their marriage as almost perfect. It seemed like a fairy tale to them. Susan was a stay-at-home mom, and Jeff worked as a sales representative at a tiles and carpet company. Later, Susan would describe the marriage as the complete opposite. It was not perfect, it was definitely not a fairy tale, and a lot of people didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes. Susan explained that Jeff changed once their first son was born. She described Jeff as becoming very angry and controlling all of the time. She said that she had to keep him notified on her whereabouts 24/7. According to Susan, she was only allowed to leave the house for a very short amount of time. If she did take longer than expected, let's say at the store at her mom's house, he would accuse her of cheating. Jeff expected Susan to keep a spotless house, and even if dinner was a little bit late, he would go into a full-on rage. Even though Jeff and Susan were married, he still went out and partied. Susan explained that his temper was a lot worse when he was doing drugs. Jeff would get more mad at Susan when she would nag about his partying and going out. He felt like he was a grown man. He could do what he wanted, and she knew that he partied when they got married, so why would he stop now, or why would she be mad now? Jeff would often have affairs, and the women would actually call their home looking for him. With one of these affairs, Jeff actually gave Susan an STD. And I know what you're thinking, why doesn't she just leave his ass? I completely understand where you're coming from, but it's kind of hard when you haven't been in a mentally or physically or emotionally abusive relationship to kind of judge, so let's not judge. With all this going on, Susan didn't really know what to do. She didn't believe in divorce, but she knew that things could not go on like this. Once Jeff started getting violent with the kids, that's when Susan finally had enough. Now, this is the part where the details kind of start to get mixed up. I've read multiple different stories of how the night happened. I'm going to do the best I can to explain what I think happened based on all of my research and everything that I've read. On January 13th, 2003, Jeff came home on another drug high. Obviously, Susan wasn't very happy about that, but she didn't really say much. Jeff and their son were play fighting when Jeff started to get a little rough, and their son went running crying to Susan. After the kids went to bed, Susan lured Jeff into the bedroom. She was wearing a silk robe, and there was candles all over the room. She then laid Jeff down on the bed, tying up his arms and his legs. She then jumped on top of him, pouring some hot candle wax on him, trying to make it very sexual. All of a sudden, Jeff felt a sharp pain, and he looked up and he saw Susan with a knife. Unable to get himself free, Susan kept stabbing him over and over and over again. Susan stabbed him over 193 times that they could count. Susan was in a panic, and she thought that if she stopped stabbing him, that he would get the knife from her and stab her and kill her, so she had to kill him. Once she realized Jeff was dead, she knew what she did, and she kind of just sat on the ground and kind of thought about things. She then got up took a shower, and then started to get everything she needed in order. First thing she did, which you guys are gonna think is absolutely insane, is call his parents. She cried on the phone and she told them that they had gotten this huge fight and he let his anger out on him and their son, and then he left and she didn't know where he went. His parents were in complete shock. They had never seen this side of Jeff before and they didn't really know what to say. Susan explained that she really thought that Jeff was gone for good. She also told them everything that Jeff had been doing with the partying, the drinking, and the drugs. This is the first time that they had ever heard anything about this, so they were really shocked and confused. Susan was on the phone with her family for over an hour, and up until this point, Susan explains for the next week she's basically in a fog. She then drugged Jeff's dead body to the backyard and buried him in a hole that he had previously made for some home improvements that he was gonna do. She knew that that wasn't really a good spot for him, but it had to do for the moment, so she covered him with dirt and then just went inside. By the time she finished burying Jeff, it was about the time for her kids to get up, and so she took them to go on some errands with her. She stopped at a few places, one of those places being a hardware store where she bought paint and bleach. And also, get this, she went to the police station and filed a restraining order on Jeff. She claimed that he was physically abusive, which he was, however, he's dead. So she filed a restraining order for her and the kids. She then went home and painted the room and covered everything in bleach, and she felt pretty good about this cover-up. Jeffrey's family then started calling her and asking, where is he? Has he came home? And she explained that he did come home, but it was just to grab his things, although he did leave his phone, so he didn't have his phone, but she really thought that he was going to be gone for good, is what she told them. At this point, it wasn't really making sense to Jeff's family. They were starting to kind of question things. After a couple days had passed, people had been calling Jeff's boss, their neighbors, and she'd been telling them all of the same story. Eventually, after telling all of the people the exact same story, answering all of their questions, the questions were getting more and more difficult for her to answer. On the 5th day of Jeff being missing, Susan looked outside and she realized that their dog had dug up Jeff's body and chewed his arm. That sent her over the edge. She then got the kids dressed, got in the car, and drove over to her mom's house. After Susan was rambling on to her mother just looked at her and said, "Honey, did you kill Jeff?" And she just nodded. Susan turned herself in on January 24th, 2003. Her trial began February 24th, 2003, and after about 5 hours of deliberation, on March 4th, 2004, she was convicted of first-degree murder. She did testify in her own defense, saying that if she stopped, she was convinced that Jeff was going to wake up and kill her, so she had to kill him first. She was sentenced to 25 years to life for murdering Jeffrey Wright. In 2005, one of Jeff's ex-fiancés actually came forward and explained how much she endured while being with him. She said he was violent. She confirmed all of the drugs and the partying. Since she came forward, this granted Susan a new trial hearing. On November 10th, 2010, 5 years was actually taken off of Susan's record and she was eligible for parole in 2014. In recent news, on December 30th, 2020, Susan was actually released from prison. She was released 4 years early. She won't be allowed to leave Texas, and she also has to wear a GPS monitor on her ankle. And then she also has to take 4 years of intensive anger management classes. Anyways, that is the case, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I know this was my first video, so it was a little bit rough, but if you liked this video, make sure you like and subscribe. I will be doing a ton of true crime and missing persons content. If there's any cases you guys want me to cover, make sure you comment them down below. I am always interested in looking into new cases. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.